I lost my left leg when the accident happened. I pushed Shen Linchuan out of the way. He was unharmed, but my left leg was caught under the wheel. Out of gratitude, he married me. Even though I was in a wheelchair for over a decade of marriage, we have been each other's companion, walking through life together. Life has had its occasional ups and downs, but I consider myself to have lived a stable and happy life. After I died from respiratory failure caused by chronic myelitis, he sat by my grave. Murmuring, he said, "You lost your left leg saving me, and I was forced to stay by your side for over a decade, trapped in my own prison. Now that you're gone, I am finally free. In this life, we are even. If there is a next life, may the mountains be high and the rivers wide, so we never meet again." With that, he set our marriage certificate ablaze before the grave. 3 months later, he remarried with great fanfare, hosting a lavish banquet for guests from all around. I knew the bride. It was his former first love, Lin Muxue. After exchanging rings, he held the woman tightly in his arms, his voice choked with emotion. "All these years, I've let you and our daughter suffer so much." When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of the car accident, given a second chance at life. This time, I chose to honor his wish. 1. The glaring summer sun hurt my eyes. The heat rising from the ground crept up my calves, a tangible sensation that made my heart tremble. I instinctively lowered my head when my gaze fell upon my left leg, safe and sound beneath my skirt. My emotions spiraled out of control in an instant. It's been so long, so very long, since I last felt this grounded. Beside me, the man who had been looking down and quickly replying to messages on his phone looked up at me in surprise. Seeing my tear-streaked face, he froze for a moment before asking anxiously, "What's wrong?" "Everything was fine just now. Why are you suddenly crying?" I slowly raised my tear-filled eyes. My gaze pierced through the hazy mist, settling on the man before me. Shen Linchuan at 22 was truly a sight to behold. He radiated youthful vitality, his features relaxed, his eyes clear and bright, still untouched by the weariness and melancholy that would later cloud them. I had almost forgotten. So this is how vibrant and spirited he was before we got married. Shen Linchuan noticed my scrutiny, his handsome brow furrowing slightly. That fleeting, almost imperceptible change made my heart clench tight. In my past life, whenever he thought I was being unreasonable, he would always look down at me with that same cold expression. I feel utterly hopeless and full of self-blame. He reached up to wipe the tears from my face and said with a sigh, "Are you still angry about me getting into that fight and ending up in jail? I've explained it to you so many times. That bastard tried to assault Muxue. I just saw red and hit him with a bottle. In a situation like that, who wouldn't?" I took a step back to avoid his touch and spoke up coolly, cutting him off. "You don't need to explain yourself to me. This matter has nothing to do with me anyway. Who you want to save is your own business." Shen Linchuan's expression went blank for a moment, the rest of his words catching in his throat. A long moment passed. His voice was tight, his brow furrowed as he asked me, "What do you mean by that?" I looked down at my intact left leg once more and replied calmly, "I mean exactly what I said. By the way, the compensation I just paid for you, plus the medical expenses for the injured party I covered earlier, totals 57,170 yuan. That money was from my part-time job, saved up to repay my student loans. I'd appreciate it if you could pay me back as soon as possible too." In my previous life, when I found out Shen Linchuan had been detained for getting into a fight, I thought I must have misheard. He was always a gentle and courteous student council member, a model student praised by all the teachers. He had never even raised his voice at anyone before. How could he end up in a brawl with street thugs, and even get taken to the police station later? I paid the compensation for him, signed the paperwork, and brought him home. But when I got a clear look at the man before me, I froze in shock. He was a complete mess, his face bruised and swollen, the right sleeve of his shirt torn off, his hands covered in scabbed over wounds. This state was a stark, jarring contrast to the Shen Linchuan I had known for 3 years in university. When he saw me, he began to explain himself in a panic. Mu Shui and her friend were at a bar when a drunk thug started harassing them. The guy, completely wasted, pinned her down on a couch and tried to force himself on her. Li Qing and I happened to run into the scene. It's not like we could just stand by and do nothing. I found it strange that he would suddenly go to a bar with friends, but he's always been a sincere and warm-hearted person, so I didn't have much reason to doubt his explanation. Even though we're a couple, we still maintain our own personal space and freedom in our daily lives. In that situation, anyone should step up to help a girl being harassed, even if she's not a classmate. Besides, I know Lin Muxue personally. She went to high school with Shen Linchuan and Li Qing. Now she's at the same university as us, majoring in music performance in the College of Arts. Although I haven't interacted with her much, my impression is that she is quite beautiful and graceful, and I have a rather favorable opinion of her. However, Shen Linchuan's method of saving her, smashing a bottle directly over the thug's head, was a bit too extreme. Fortunately, the case was ultimately resolved through mediation, otherwise, Shen Linchuan would have ended up in jail. The only thing that struck me as odd was that when the police handled the case, they never mentioned the crucial detail of the thug sexually assaulting Lin Muxue, simply classifying the incident as a straightforward brawl. It wasn't until many years later that I accidentally learned the truth of what happened that year from Shen Linchuan's group of friends. That was 2 months before I died. Li Qing, Shen Linchuan's closest friend and also our university classmate, threw a housewarming party after moving into his new villa. Naturally, Shen Linchuan took me along with him. My condition had already deteriorated significantly by then. The neuropathic pain caused by chronic myelitis tormented me day and night. On top of that, I was suffering from PTSD, and my mind was in a constant state of hypervigilance. I was prone to emotional outbursts and didn't get along well with the people around me, so, while everyone else was chatting animatedly, I, feeling like I couldn't fit in, slipped away alone to the villa's back garden. The moonlight was cool, like a thin layer of frost dusting the blooming tulips. I sat quietly on the rattan chair beside the flowering tree, my fingers unconsciously tracing the prosthetic on my left leg. Just as I was lost in thought, gazing up to count the sparse, bright stars, the first-floor window of the villa was suddenly flung open. A warm, yellow light spilled out from inside. The sound of men's laughter and chatter, punctuated by the sharp click of a lighter, immediately reached my ears. Linchuan, how do you put up with Su Yuning's aloof personality? Can't she even crack a smile? Her face was icy cold all evening, making it seem like my wife and I had slighted her. I don't remember her being like this back in college. This was the voice of Li Qing, the host of today's housewarming party. Shen Linchuan muttered something under his breath, likely apologizing on my behalf or something similar. Another man's voice chimed in. Oh, come on, there are plenty of disabled people in the world, but I've never seen anyone as self-centered as her. Look, I'm not trying to mock you, but you've really ruined your life. Su Yuning looks at least 20 years older than you. I was genuinely shocked by her appearance just now. Is it really worth giving up someone like Lin Muxue for a woman like that? Someone else chimed in. Exactly, if you ask me, Brother Shen has lost his mind. He and Lin Muxue were the golden couple everyone recognized back in high school. Even the dean turned a blind eye, and now he's throwing away an outstanding woman like Muxue for a cripple like Su Yuning. He's completely lost it. The night wind, carrying a faint trace of cigarette smoke, rushed into my nostrils. From the shadows, I looked toward the man standing by the window. The cigarette in his hand glowed and dimmed, yet he never uttered a word. Li Qing flicked the ash from his cigarette and suddenly sighed, saying, you all should keep your comments to yourselves. Don't forget, it was Lin Muxue who betrayed Linchuan first. After she started university, she got together with that senior who drove a luxury car. If it weren't for that, Linchuan wouldn't have ended up finding Su Yuning, who bore a 60 or 70% resemblance to Lin Muxue, as a substitute, only to be stuck with her for the rest of his life. He took a deep drag from his cigarette before stubbing it out in the ashtray. And if it weren't for you guys meddling in the middle, egging Lin Muxue on to get back with Linchuan after their breakup, she wouldn't have gone to that bar and deliberately hooked up with that thug after being rejected, then sent the photos to Linchuan on purpose. And look how that turned out. Linchuan flew into a rage, smashed a bottle over the guy's head, and ended up in jail in the end. It was all thanks to Su Yuning running around and pulling strings. Not only did she get a lawyer friend to help mediate, but she also fronted the compensation money for Linchuan. Otherwise, he'd definitely be doing time. Li Qing finished speaking. A heavy silence fell over the group. Finally, someone muttered, why dredge up the past? Even if she had the greatest favor in the world, didn't Brother Shen repay it in full by marrying her? For I was plunged into darkness, my throat suddenly seized as if by an invisible hand. A tsunami of inner turmoil crashed over me. So that's how it was. From their fragmented conversation, I finally pieced together the whole truth. Lin Muxue and Shen Linchuan were each other's first love. He was brilliant, she was beautiful. Everyone said they were like the main couple straight out of a young adult novel. But after entering university, Lin Muxue met a senior who drove a Ferrari. On the day of their breakup, Shen Linchuan was utterly devastated and drank himself into a stupor. He waited outside Lin Muxue's dormitory for 3 days, but never received a single word of explanation from her. Yet, in less than a year, Lin Muxue's relationship with her senior ended in a breakup. After that, Lin Muxue began contacting Shen Linchuan frequently, hoping to reconcile with him. By that time, Shen Linchuan and I had already officially become a couple, but she had no intention of Giving up, she would buy breakfast at the cafeteria every day and wait downstairs at the boys' dormitory. She would place the love letters she wrote into pretty, faintly scented envelopes and ask Li Qing to slip them into Shen Linchuan's backpack. She kept this up for a whole year, yet the man never looked back, that is, until her birthday. She booked a hotel room on purpose and put on the new, sexy lingerie she'd bought herself as a birthday gift, a final tribute to her fading youth. She said this would be the one and only time, and she would never bother him again. But Shen Linchuan never showed up. A drunken Lin Muxue sent Shen Linchuan a video call from the bar. On the screen, a stranger's hand was already slipping into her exposed collar. When Shen Linchuan rushed into the bar, he saw her pinned in the booth by a man, her skirt in disarray. 5. Shen Linchuan was blinded by rage. He reached out and pulled Lin Muxue off the man, then got into a scuffle with him. When he found himself overpowered, in a moment of desperation, he grabbed a wine bottle from the table and smashed it hard against the man's head. I know what happened after that. That single blow from Shen Linchuan nearly cost him his bright future. The other party refused to back down, adamant about sending Shen Linchuan to prison. Upon hearing the news, I immediately contacted a lawyer I had met during my part-time translation work and asked him to help handle the matter. I also visited the man in the hospital multiple times, humbly pleading with him to settle. After a week of difficult negotiations, he finally relented, demanding 50,000 yuan in compensation plus coverage for all his medical expenses, and agreed to settle the case. Shen Linchuan didn't want his parents to find out about the trouble he'd gotten into at school, so I covered that 50-some thousand yuan for him. That money came from my scholarship and what I'd earned over the years doing freelance translation gigs in college. The car accident that led to my amputation happened on the way back to campus from the detention center. Back then, after Shen Linchuan took a phone call, he suddenly said he needed to buy something from the supermarket across the street and told me to head back to school first. Just as he was crossing the street, a black car lost control and sped toward him. I didn't have time to think. My body reacted before my mind could, and I rushed over to shove him out of the way, but my left leg was caught under the wheel. The injury was so severe that a large area of the tissue in my leg had necrotized. To save my life, my left leg had to be amputated. After I was wheeled out of the operating room, Shen Linchuan held my hand tightly with red, swollen eyes. He knelt by my hospital bed and promised he would take care of me for the rest of his life. Later, I took a leave of absence from school and gave up on taking the postgraduate entrance exams. Every day, I lay stiffly in the shabby rental apartment Shen Linchuan had found for me. My only outdoor activity was when Shen Linchuan took me to the hospital for rehabilitation therapy. A year later, Shen Linchuan graduated from university. Instead of job hunting like other graduates, he discussed starting a media company with a few friends. He took the remaining 800,000 yuan from my car accident compensation in my account to use as the company's seed funding. My rehabilitation therapy was forced to stop years later. My attending physician told me that if I had been able to complete all the rehabilitation courses back then, it might not have developed into chronic long-term myelitis. 6 Much later, Shen Linchuan took me home to meet his parents. When his parents learned their son's intended bride was a woman missing a leg, their faces instantly turned as dark and hard as iron. They couldn't even be bothered to maintain a facade of politeness right in front of family and friends. They pointed at my face and screamed insults. They called me shameless, called me a cripple, called me nothing but a burden dragging their son down. But no matter how they cursed me, I remained unmoved. What else could I have done? I lost a leg saving Shen Linchuan. The amputation left me with severe post-traumatic stress disorder. At night, I'm always tormented by fear and despair. Given my current circumstances, Shen Linchuan is the best choice I have. What right do they have to ask me to give up? I won't. I'd rather die than do that. Unfortunately, my recovery after the amputation didn't go well. Chronic myelitis has ravaged me beyond recognition. Not even 40 years old, yet my hair has turned almost completely white, and my face is terribly aged. Shen Linchuan hired 2 caregivers to look after me and transfers 200,000 yuan into my account each month for personal expenses. He rarely came home himself. On the rare occasions he returned early, he would stay in his study until late into the night. He was always busy, always on a business trip. On the night of Li Cheng's housewarming party, I was rushed to the hospital after a PTSD episode caused me to tremble and struggle to breathe. I demanded an explanation from Shen Linchuan, yet he kept hiding and refused to show himself. 2 months later, I died in the hospital from respiratory failure caused by osteomyelitis. Shen Linchuan never showed up again, not even until the very end. After death, my soul lingered on and would not disperse. I watched as the nurse covered me with the white sheet, watched the sky outside gradually lighten, and watched Shen Linchuan, who had arrived belatedly, stand Before my remains, his face bore an expression of relief, as if he had finally been set free. After the funeral was over, he sat before my freshly built grave and lit a cigarette. He said, "Jiang Yuning, you lost your left leg saving me, and for over a decade, I was trapped, forced to stay by your side. Now that you're gone, I am finally free. In this life, we are even, if there is a next life. May the mountains be high and the rivers wide, so we never meet again." With that, he lit our marriage certificate in front of the grave. I followed Shen Linchuan to the front of a luxurious villa. A woman in a silk nightgown ran out of the villa, barefoot. She threw herself into the man's arms. It was Lin Muxue. She wrapped her arms around his waist and comforted him softly. "Darling, don't be too upset. That woman is gone. From now on, the three of us can live a good life together." The man nodded silently. That evening, I saw their daughter again. She's already in her 3rd year of junior high, but we've only been married for 15 years. It turns out the stable marriage I thought I had been completely rotten for a long time. 7. Perhaps it was the memory that made the seething hatred in my eyes all too apparent. Shen Linchuan softened his tone, his voice gentle, almost placating. "All right, don't be angry. I'll transfer the money to you as soon as I've gathered it. For now, let me take you to that dessert shop you love so much." "Okay." I shook off his hand in disgust as he reached for mine. Shen Linchuan was taken aback, his right hand frozen awkwardly in midair. Just then, his phone suddenly rang. After glancing at the caller ID, he shot me a flustered look and said with an unnatural expression, "Yuning, wait a moment, I need to take this call." Then, covering the receiver, he walked a few steps away. "Hey, Mu Xue," his hushed voice drifted on the wind, "don't worry, I've taken care of things. I'm out of the detention center now." Something was said on the other end of the line. I watched as the tips of his ears flushed a faint pink. He asked in a low voice, "What brand of tampons do you use?" "Okay, got it. If your stomach hurts, just stay in the dorm. I'll buy some tampons and painkillers and bring them to you in a bit." As he hung up the phone and turned around, a trace of lingering tenderness remained on his face. He said to me, looking a bit awkward, "Yuning, something's come up. Why don't you head back to campus first? I'll buy some desserts and meet you at your dorm later." I glanced at the messages popping up on Shen Linchuan's phone and said flatly, "No need. I have plans tonight. You go ahead and take care of your business." The man let out an almost imperceptible sigh of relief and nodded. "All right then, I'll be off. Take care on your way back." In the slanting rays of the setting sun, I watched as he hurried eagerly across the street. I thought of the instant of terror and despair from my past life, when my left leg was dragged under a car. The name slipped out before I could stop myself. "Shen Linchuan." He turned his head, looking at me with a smile. "What is it, Yuning?" "Something else." I gazed at this man who had stayed by my side for nearly 20 years in my past life, the man who once knelt by my sickbed, vowing to cherish and love me for a lifetime. The evening glow cast a hazy, crimson hue upon him. At that moment, the traffic light behind him turned green. "Be careful crossing the street," I said. "Watch out for cars." Shen Linchuan was taken aback for a second, then flashed me a wide grin. "Don't worry, your boyfriend's got 9 lives." I watched him fall silent, then turn and walk toward the school. A dozen seconds later, a screech of brakes tore through the air behind me, followed by a heavy, sickening thud. Someone let out a terrified scream. "Oh my God, someone's been hit. Quick, call the police." I clutched the strap of my canvas shoulder bag with a death grip, my fingernails digging deep into my palms. A surging crowd was converging on the intersection where the accident happened. My stomach suddenly twisted in violent, nauseating spasms. I couldn't hold back any longer. Bending over as violent dry heaves racked my body. 8. In a daze, I stumbled back to the dormitory, only to meet a pair of eyes that held unspoken words. "Yuning." My roommate seemed to be holding something back. I slumped down and tossed my canvas bag and phone onto the desk. Then, I mindlessly grabbed the water glass nearby and gulped down a few mouthfuls. The cool liquid slid down my throat, soothing the burning heat churning in my chest. "What's wrong, Yao Yao?" I asked. My roommate hesitantly pushed her phone toward me. "This post was uploaded just 5 minutes ago. The person who got hurt, it couldn't be Shen Linchuan from our class, could it?" I glanced at the phone screen. The headline on the campus forum read that Shen Linchuan from the School of Finance had been involved in a serious car accident near Culture Square. On the webpage, the photo was blurred, but the smeared patch of dark red blood was still a shocking sight. I stared at the post, unable to speak for a long time. My phone suddenly began vibrating on the desk. At that moment, it was an unfamiliar landline number. I casually tapped the speakerphone button. A woman's urgent voice came through the line. "Hello, is this Su Yuning? This is the emergency department of City Second Hospital. Shen Linchuan has been in a car accident. His injuries are severe. Please, you or his family need to come to the emergency room immediately." I frowned. Shouldn't the hospital notify The school or his family directly. Why would they call me directly? I replied, I'm sorry, but Shenlin Chuan and I are just classmates. I suggest you contact his family directly. There was a clear pause on the other end of the line. You are the only emergency contact listed in the patient's phone. Could you please help us get in touch with his family? I don't have his family's contact information. I have things to attend to here. So I'm going to hang up now. With that, I promptly ended the call. I looked up to see 3 stunned faces. Their mouths were slightly agape, as if they were seeing me for the first time. I didn't feel like explaining anything at that moment. I just dragged my heavy feet into the bathroom. 9. For the past couple of days, my classmates have often been huddled together talking about something. The moment I get close, their conversation abruptly stops. I don't even have to think about it. They're definitely talking about me behind my back. I don't care. I went to class. As usual, ate alone, and when I didn't have lessons, I went to the study room to read and study. Finally, before class on the 4th day, Shen Linchuan's roommate, Li Cheng, stopped me in the hallway. His face was tinged with anger. Su Yuning, do you even have a heart? Linchuan is lying in the hospital right now. His right leg has a comminuted fracture, and the doctor says it's highly likely he'll be permanently disabled. It's just a limp. In my past life, I had my entire left leg amputated. My expression remained placid as I calmly retorted, so. Li Cheng's expression twisted slightly as he spat out angrily, almost our entire class has gone to see him, even Zhou Hao from the student council who had a grudge against him. But you're his girlfriend, and you haven't even called him once. Is your heart made of stone? I shot him a light, dismissive glance, and said, maybe Zhou Hao went to the hospital just to gloat. Li Cheng was so angry he was left speechless. He couldn't find the words to retort. I looked him straight in the eye and reminded him, if Shen Linchuan is injured, the person you should notify is Lin Muxue, not me. Li Cheng's expression froze. The atmosphere grew still for a moment. Just then, the distant sound of the class bell rang out. I brushed past his arm and walked into the classroom through the back door without looking back. Li Cheng's voice, thick with suppressed anger, came from behind me. Su Yuning, you are the coldest person I have ever met. I twitched the corner of my mouth into a mocking, cold smile. Cold compared to you lot of heartless, hypocritical trash. What I've done is nothing. 10. But in the end, I still went to the hospital to see Shen Linchuan. As soon as I pushed the ward door open, a strange smell hit me. Shen Linchuan's right leg was wrapped in thick bandages, stained with dried yellow medicine and seeping dark brown traces of blood. It looks pretty disgusting. I heard his injuries are severe. He needs debridement and anti-inflammatory treatment first. Surgery can only be performed once the infection is under control. I looked at the man propped up against the headboard. In just a week, he had wasted away to a shadow of his former self, his pale cheeks sunken deeply just like me at this moment in my past life. He looked terribly frail, yet the moment he saw me, a light sparked in his eyes. Yuning, you're here. The man's voice was hoarse, yet tinged with joy. He sat up straight, his movements animated with excitement. He must have jostled his wound by accident. A pained groan escaped him as he furrowed his brow. Yet, in the very next instant when his gaze inadvertently fell upon my perfectly intact left leg, the joy that had filled his eyes a moment before suddenly flickered and wavered. Shen Linchuan remained silent, but his stare was fixed, unyielding, on my left leg. I walked silently to the stool by his hospital bed and sat down, placing the canvas bag on my lap. Su Yuning, why didn't you save me that day? Or, you could have stopped me. I know you could have. His voice was quiet, yet laced with an uncontrollable tremor. My heart clenched, a sour, bitter feeling instantly flooding through my entire body. Shen Linchuan, so he's back too, is he? I stared at him coldly, offering no answer to his question. My gaze made him visibly uncomfortable, a hint of a cold, mocking smile curling at the corner of his mouth. After all these days since my accident, it's a rare treat for Miss Su to finally remember to visit me. Well, because summer vacation starts right after the exams next month, I said. Shen Linchuan seemed not to understand what I was saying, frowning and looking at me in confusion. I don't plan on taking a summer job this year. I've made plans to travel abroad with friends, so I need you to pay me back the 57,170 yuan right now. Shen Linchuan's eyes widened in disbelief, the rim slowly turning crimson. His voice took on a shattered quality. You came all the way to the hospital just to ask me for money? Su Yuning, do you even have a heart? Did you ever truly love me? 11. Shen Linchuan's question left me speechless with bitter amusement. How dare he ask if I ever truly loved him? How did I lose my leg in my previous life? Then, is it because I no longer want it? The scene suddenly flashed in my mind, when Li Qing said he saw me as a substitute for Lin Muxue, and then, after my death, when he sat by my grave and finished saying all those things. How could a scumbag like him ever deserve my love again? I let out a derisive snort. Shen Linchuan, in your eyes, am I just some fool you can easily deceive? He was taken aback for a moment, then, with a hint of anger, he retorted, when have I ever deceived you? In our past life, I toiled without complaint, taking care of you in your crippled state for 17 whole years. What more do you want? I sneered coldly. Did you ever really take care of me? In the 2 years before we got married, you did look after me sometimes. But more often than not, I was alone at home. Hobbling around on crutches, hopping on one leg, taking care of myself later. After we married and you had money, you were so moved by simply hiring a maid. Shenlin Chuan, search your conscience. How many times did you truly take care of me? Shenlin Chuan's face flushed red. Don't I have to work? Don't I have to earn money? All the client dinners, all the business trips, they're all for you, for our family. Do you think that 200,000 I give you every month just falls from the sky? Business, eh? Work trip, I repeated his words with biting sarcasm. Was your little rendezvous with Lin Muxiue at Lanwan Villa business, or was attending a parent-teacher conference for your 9th grade daughter a work trip? At the mention of Lin Muxiue and his daughter, Shen Lingchuan's expression shifted dramatically, the color draining from his face. After a brief silence, he let out a strange, hollow laugh. He said, Su Yuning, do you have any idea how I feel every time we're in bed and I see the stump of your left leg? It makes me sick, honestly, it's a physical revulsion, pure nausea. Every time we're intimate, I have to take medication beforehand and force myself to suppress it just to get through being with you. If the pretending you're talking about refers to this, then yes, I have been pretending with you. Every word he spoke was like a poisoned blade, plunging straight into my heart and twisting. I tried to stay calm, but my teeth chattered uncontrollably. Tears threatened to spill over, but no way. I refused to break down in front of this piece of trash. I stood up, raised my right hand, and with all my strength, slapped him hard across the face. Shen Linchuan, you're a goddamn son of a bitch, go to hell. Why the fuck didn't that car just finish you off that day? I struck him across the face, snapping his head to the side. He ran his tongue over his bleeding lip, his Adam's apple bobbing. I took a deep breath, struggling to steady the tremor in my voice. Today, I don't want to hear how much you despised me, nor do I want to mention the debt from when I saved you in a past life, since it's all from a previous lifetime. There's no need for either of us to bring it up ever again. I'm here for two things. We're breaking up, and I need you to pay me back right now. From now on, we're through. It's over for good. 12. I stood by the hospital bed. I stood with my arms crossed, watching coldly as Shen Linchuan, his face dark with anger, called his relatives and friends one by one to borrow money. The moment Alipay notified me that 57,170 yuan had been deposited, I blocked all his contact methods right in front of him. I was just about to turn and leave. Shen Linchuan's voice came coldly from behind me. Su Yining, I'm curious to see just how well you'll fare in this life without me, relying solely on your scheming father and your conniving stepmother. When the time comes and you regret it, wanting to come back to me, don't expect me to take you back. My steps faltered slightly. The repulsive faces of that despicable man and woman involuntarily surfaced in my mind. That woman is my mother's cousin. After my mother was diagnosed with late-stage cervical cancer, she came to take care of her for a while. She ended up taking care of my father in his bed. After my mother passed away, I became a thorn in her side. Her entire world revolved around her own daughter from a previous marriage, and she racked her brains trying to kick me, not even 14, out of the house. My father turned a blind eye to it all. In fact, egged on by that woman, he tried to force me to drop out of school and get a job. I, of course, refused. Fortunately, my outstanding scores on the high school entrance exam earned me a tuition waiver for senior high. Later, I managed to scrape through 3 years of high school by working hard to earn a scholarship and, on top of that, selling the gold bracelet my mother left me. Shen Linchuan, of course, knew all about my wretched family background. He also knew exactly how much I despised that despicable pair, yet now, he's deliberately using them to provoke me. Rage shot straight to the top of my head. I spun around, strode to his hospital bed, and slapped him across the face once more before spitting on him. Pa, you think I'd ever come back? It's high noon. What kind of pipe dream are you having? You're no different from those two beasts. You're all filthy vermin from this same nest. Shen Linchuan's face contorted instantly, veins bulging on his forehead. He lunged at me, springing up from the hospital bed, but with his right leg injured, he crashed heavily to the floor. Su, you, Ning. He snarled my name through gritted teeth, as if he wanted to tear me limb from limb. I shot him a look of utter contempt and slammed the door shut behind me. 13. I've severed all ties with Shen Linchuan, yet news about him inevitably reached me through other classmates. I heard his post-surgery infection was severe, leading to sepsis, and he was in the ICU for Over a month, his parents came to the school to handle his leave of absence to encourage him. Lin Mushiwa put on a pure white veil and took a photo of herself kissing Shen Linchuan by his hospital bed. Someone even made a dedicated post about their relationship on the campus forum. All their classmates admired Lin Mushiwa's unwavering devotion to him, calling it true love, but I had no time to pay attention to any of that. I was busy preparing for the advanced English interpreting exam, studying for the postgraduate entrance exams, and enjoying the feeling of running freely with my healthy legs. I immersed myself in BBC News and TED Talks every day, even practicing simultaneous interpretation in my dreams. The name Shen Linchuan had long been blurred and washed away by my studies. I didn't see Shen Linchuan again until the winter of my senior year, just before New Year's Day. It had only been a few days since the preliminary graduate school entrance exam ended, and my nerves, which had been wound tight for so long, finally got a chance to unwind a little that day. I sat by the man-made lake with a cup of hot cocoa, watching the hand-reared red-billed gulls play and circle over the water. Suddenly, the sound of a heated argument erupted from not far away. Shen Linchuan, why aren't you staying put in your rented room? What's this madness, coming to the school? Just look at the state of you, you look like a complete wreck. You scared all my friends away. The woman's voice was laced with irritation and disdain. I followed the sound with my gaze. Behind the bare kapok tree, I spotted two familiar figures in the bitter winter cold. Shen Linchuan wore only a wrinkled plaid shirt. He was terribly thin, and with his hunched back leaning on a cane, he cut a truly pitiful figure. Shen Linchuan's eyes were bloodshot as he sneered and questioned her. Friends? You're telling me you're just friends? You were all over each other, and you still have the nerve to call that friendship, Lin Mushiwa? I was only on a leave of absence for a while, and you couldn't wait to sneak around behind my back with someone else. No wonder you haven't been answering my calls or replying to my messages lately. If I hadn't come here secretly today, I'd never have known you were cheating on me. Lin Mushiwa's face was full of impatience. It's none of your business what I do. Just because I'm not seeing anyone else doesn't mean I have to marry you. If I had known you'd end up with a grade 7 disability, I would never have gotten involved with you in the first place. If I dared to bring you home, my parents would break my legs. You look down on me. Shen Linchuan's entire body began to tremble violently. He lost control and roared, don't you forget who I became like this for. If it wasn't for buying you things, how could I have gotten hit by a car? Then go ahead and call the police. Lin Mushiwa's voice was icy. Go on, be my guest and have the police arrest me. You're the one who wasn't looking where you were going when you crossed the street. That driver hit you, and he's the one who's had the worst luck imaginable. I'm warning you, stay away from me from now on. Don't come looking for me again. You and I have nothing to do with each other. Having said that, Lin Mushiwa turned and walked away without another word. Shen Linchuan's body seemed to lose all support. His cane clattered to the ground, and he fell weightlessly to his right. A mocking smile played on my lips as I watched the whole spectacle unfold. Shen Linchuan struggled painfully to push himself up from the floor. The moment he lifted his head, his gaze met mine directly. A violent shudder ran through his body, as if struck by lightning, freezing him solid in the biting cold wind. 14 Mondays 8 a.m., class. With headphones on, listening to music, I hurried into the classroom, carrying a steamy bag of soup dumplings and a cup of soy milk. I had just found an empty seat and sat down when Shui Yan, who I'm quite close with, came over and sat next to me. She nudged my elbow with a conspiratorial air. Puzzled, I took off my headphones. Shui Yan leaned in and lowered her voice. Yuning, have you heard? Shen Linchuan's girlfriend from the art school is seeing a freshman from the sports academy. Her face couldn't hide her gossipy expression, and her tone was tinged with excitement. Yesterday, that girl went to a hotel with her junior, but Shen Linchuan caught them. He got into a fight with the guy, but with his bad leg, how could he possibly take on a jock? Sure enough, he ended up back in the hospital last night. My hands paused while opening my breakfast wrapper. Shui Yan continued, the police were even called yesterday. That athlete and the girl were both taken away. It's absolutely unbelievable. Well, she suddenly grabbed my wrist, blinking her big eyes as she asked, did hearing that feel satisfying? I smiled and nodded. Yeah, it really was satisfying. They got what they deserved. The girl burst out laughing. That's more like it. Ever since you broke up with Shen Linchuan, I barely seen you smile. Decent men might be rare, but there are plenty of fish in the sea. I looked at her gratefully. Among all my classmates, she was the only one who consistently showed me kindness. In the eyes of my other classmates, I was the ultimate egoist who broke up with Shen Linchuan the moment after his car accident. They think someone like me isn't worth befriending. Shui Yan nudged my shoulder again, her eyes crinkling into a smile. I heard you passed the English Advanced Interpretation oral exam on your first try. That's amazing. I smiled and said, well, I guess I just got lucky. So, I'll treat you to dinner tonight. You can pick the restaurant. Awesome. 15. The past 6 months have flown by. Before I knew it, the first semester of my senior year was almost over. Many students have already started leaving campus one after another after finishing their exams. After our final exam in financial engineering, my roommates are all packing their bags to head home. Shui Yan had a lot of luggage, so she called and asked me to help her carry it to a taxi waiting outside the campus. After seeing Shui Yan off and returning to the dorm, I realized the other three had already left. Standing alone in the empty dorm room, I was suddenly overwhelmed by an indescribable sadness. I still remember that September when I first stepped onto campus, greeting them with awkward formality. And now, graduation is already upon us. Next semester, aside from a few classmates staying on campus to prepare for graduate school entrance exams, everyone will be going their separate ways to start their internships. The next time we see each other will probably be at our thesis defense. I washed my face and stood in front of the mirror for a long time. I felt a profound sense of loss. I picked up my canvas bag and headed downstairs, planning to go to the supermarket to buy some milk and dry goods. In 2 more days, the supermarket would be closing too. Just as I stepped out of the dormitory building, I spotted a familiar figure standing not far away. I glanced at Shen Linchuan leaning on his crutch by the walkway and wanted to pretend I hadn't seen him. As I brushed past, he saw me, pleasantly surprised, and quickly hopped a couple of steps on his crutches to stand before me. Yuning, you've come down. I have something to tell you. I wanted nothing to do with him and replied coldly, get lost. You're blocking my fresh air. His eyes were slightly reddened as he gazed straight at me, his gaze overflowing with deep affection. Yuning, please don't be like this. I waited here specifically for you. Don't you have nowhere to go for winter break? I rented the apartment we lived in during our past life. I'll help you move your things, and we can spend the new year together. I rubbed my temples in frustration. He couldn't possibly think I'd miss that rental that felt like a prison to me, could he? Shen Linchuan, are you ever going to stop? Wasn't it you who said that if there were a next life, we'd be worlds apart and never meet again? Who are you putting on this lovesick act for now? With that, I tried to step past him and leave, but Shen Linchuan grabbed my arm. I'm sorry, I was a bastard. I was blind and foolish. I take back everything I said. He raised his hand and slapped himself twice across the face. Yuning, I regret everything. Let's get back together. I swear to you, I will treat you right for the rest of my life. I am so utterly speechless. It's unbelievable. I'm at a complete loss for words. I violently shook off his hand. Get your filthy hands off me. Who do you think you are? How dare you touch me? Shen Linchuan's face turned pale, his eyes glazing over with a misty sheen. Yuning, how can you be so heartless? We were husband and wife for over a decade. I refuse to believe you feel nothing for me. He actually had the nerve to accuse me of being heartless in my past life. When he treated me that way, he never once stopped to consider if he was being cruel. He stubbornly blocked my path. Refusing to budge, I raised my foot and drove it hard into his one good, uninjured left leg. He cried out in pain. The other lame leg simply couldn't bear any weight. After staggering a few steps, he fell heavily to the ground. I shrugged innocently. I already told you to get lost, but you insisted on clinging to me. I suspect you were trying to unlawfully restrict my freedom. This was nothing more than self-defense. Shen Linchuan lay on the ground, looking at me with a sorrowful yet tender expression. Yuning, I don't blame you. If this makes you feel better, I'm willing to do it. You can kick me as many times as you want, as long as you forgive me. Looking at his smug, annoying face, I was afraid kicking him would just give him pleasure. With no one blocking my way anymore, I naturally had no time to waste bickering with him. I lifted my foot and stepped right over him. 16. In late February, the results of the National Postgraduate Entrance Exams preliminary test were released. The score was good, 20-some points higher than my last mock exam that was performing above and beyond my usual level. For the sake of prudence and considering my own capabilities, I didn't aim for top-tier universities. Instead, I applied for a popular major at a second-tier institution. The focus is on smart finance. What followed was the intense preparation for the second-round interviews. I didn't hear anything more about Shen Linchuan until half a year into my graduate studies. After that time I kicked him. He harassed me for a while longer, but every time, I'd either beat him up or call security or the police. Gradually, he stopped showing up in front of me. I had just stepped out of the finance lab that day. A WeChat voice message from Shui Yan popped up on my phone during our chat. She told me that Lin Muxiue and Shen Linchuan had gotten married, and they'd even invited quite a few of our old classmates. I asked, curious, weren't they broken up before? Then, I heard another absolutely jaw-dropping story. During her internship, Lin Muxiue worked as a music teacher at a private, upscale elementary school. She ended up getting involved with one of her students' fathers. The student's mother found out and posted their explicit photos and graphic chat logs online. Since the man was an executive at a publicly listed company, the hashtag trended explosively that very night. Hashtag executive and student teacher exposed in car passion hashtag elite primary school music teacher affair exposed by wife hashtag. Wife exposes executive's explicit chats with student teacher hashtag. Not long after this incident occurred, Lin Muxiue was drugged on her way home one night. When she awoke, she found her hands covered in blood. A diagnosis revealed that the tendons in both her wrists had been precisely severed. After treatment, she retained the ability to perform daily tasks, but any hope of playing instruments like the guzheng or piano again was gone forever. So, Shen Linchuan seized the opportunity right then. I asked Shui Yan. You guessed it, Shen Linchuan sought out Lin Muxiue on his own, promising to take good care of her for the rest of her life. They just had their wedding a few days ago. It was quite grand. My partner attended too. I smiled. They truly are a pair of soulmates, destined for each other across lifetimes. 17. After graduating with my master's degree, I joined an international financial firm through their campus recruitment program as a management trainee. The job required frequent travel between Shanghai and Hong Kong, China. I became even busier. Still, I managed to find time for a relationship. My boyfriend was a fellow student I met during my master's program, majoring in artificial intelligence. On Valentine's Day, since I was working in Hong Kong, China, I had a long, cozy phone call with my boyfriend after work. By the time I hung up, it was already late at night. Opening WeChat, I saw over 100 unread messages in my university class group chat. Everyone seems to be talking about Lin Muxiue and Shen Linchuan. Curious, I scrolled up to see the earliest message was a forwarded news article. A woman, unable to endure long-term domestic violence, poisoned her entire family with tetramine. In the news photo, the person wearing a yellow detention center vest, head bowed while being interviewed, was unmistakably Lin Muxiue. Lin Muxiue recounted that ever since her marriage, her life had felt like falling into an abyss. She was not only responsible for caring for her disabled husband but also for attending to her difficult in-laws. Even while pregnant, she was ordered by her mother-in-law to do household chores. She merely suggested doing it a bit later, and her mother-in-law shoved her hard. Her abdomen slammed into the corner of a table, causing her to miscarry the child she was carrying. Instead of showing any concern for her, her husband berated her as useless, saying she couldn't even protect their child. The moment she returned home after the Dancy procedure, her husband gave her a severe beating. From then on, her husband seemed possessed by a demon, constantly devising new ways to torment her. Each time he watched her kneel and beg for mercy in agony, a sickening look of pleasure would spread across his face. Her days were consumed by fear and despair. She tried to escape, to get a divorce, to seek help from her parents, yet every attempt was met with relentless beatings from her husband and in-laws. Finally, she broke. The long-term oppression and despair made her give up all resistance. She bought a large quantity of rat poison and repeatedly laced the meals of those 3 people with it. It wasn't until her mother-in-law suddenly vomited and fainted, requiring emergency hospitalization. The truth has only just come to light. Reading this news, I felt neither satisfaction nor sorrow. Perhaps true letting go is when even news about them feels utterly inconsequential. 18. In the 18th month of the management trainee program, I finally passed my probation to permanent review. The base annual salary on the offer letter HR handed me made me catch my breath, and that's not even including the performance bonus I might get at year-end. Life has truly brightened up. I have a healthy body, a fulfilling job, and a partner who shares my values. In my past life, I was trapped in agony, suffering from physical torment, but fortunately, I now stand at the threshold of a brand new life. The wind blows from the other shore, carrying with it a biting chill and a sense of freedom. Only occasionally, in the dead of night, I feel a hollow ache in my heart, as if a piece of it is missing. It wasn't until a late night at the office, amidst the distant twinkling lights, that the memory of my father and stepmother's revolting faces suddenly flashed before my eyes. Come to think of it, it's been 6 or 7 years since we last had any contact. I suppose it's about time I paid their family a little visit. So, during my vacation, I made a trip back to my hometown. Whether by coincidence or not, the day I returned home happened to be my stepsister's engagement day. It was clear that the whole family was very pleased with my stepsister's fiancé. My dad and stepmother were so proud, they would have been strutting around with their tails held high, if they had any. The man is a factory heir. He's tall, handsome, and wealthy. No wonder my stepsister looks at him with such adoration and happiness in her eyes. My dad and stepmother didn't react much to my return. They were as cold and distant as ever. Their enthusiasm only spiked when the topic of their daughter Landing a wealthy husband came up during my time back home. I managed to get detailed information about the factory owned by my stepsister's husband's family. I saw a job posting for a receptionist at their factory on a recruitment website, so I spent a hefty sum to hire a beautiful amateur actress. I then meticulously crafted a plan, instructing the actress to apply for the job and get close to my dear stepsister's fiancé, all according to my scheme. If you successfully make them break off the engagement in a bitter fallout, I'll add another 200,000 as a bonus. Of course, I won't force her to use any illegal methods. If she throws herself at him of her own accord, that's her own problem. The girl certainly didn't let me down. Just 3 months later, news broke that my stepsister and her fiancé were on the verge of a breakup. Another 2 months passed. The girl sent me a transfer of 8,888 yuan, along with 2 marriage certificates. The bride was her, and the groom, to my shock, was my stepsister's former fiancé. Before I could even process what was happening, her video call popped up. As soon as I answered, I heard her bright, joyful voice. "Sis, take the red envelope. Jiame and I are getting married next month. Can you be my bridesmaid?" Huh. I was completely thrown. Once I gathered my wits, I quickly said, "Oh, right, of course. In that case, I'll add a bonus for you. Is it still the same bank card as last time?" She cut me off directly. "I haven't even properly thanked you for introducing me to gemming, so I don't want the bonus, but I found out yesterday that I'm pregnant. Could you be my child's godmother?" Well, seeing my hesitation, she offered a condition I couldn't refuse. She hinted meaningfully, "Just in case you need a professional actor in the near future, I can make an introduction for you." I thought for a moment, smiled, and asked, "Well, do you know any older actors? The kind in their 40s or 50s? I heard her thump her chest over the phone. "Absolutely, just send me the wedding venue and time, and I'll be there for sure." 19 At this point, some might say my stepsister is innocent, but back then, when her mother climbed into my father's bed, causing my gravely ill mother to cough up blood and fury, when she brazenly moved into my bedroom and threw my belongings into the community dumpster like trash, when she teamed up with classmates to bully and humiliate me, giving me the nickname Mole Rat, no one cared whether I was innocent or not. If her mother could seduce my father back then why can't someone else steal her man now? Look at it from another angle. Am I not just helping her weed out the bad apples before the wedding? What kind of a good match is a man who can be so easily lured away? If she ever sees the light and comes to thank me, I'll tell her sincerely, "Don't mention it. It's all part of the big sister's job." The end. Story 2. Push, Mrs. Shen. I can see the head. Give me one more big push. The midwife's frantic voice seemed to reach me from another, distant world, buzzing in my ears, mixed with the cold, rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor. Sweat and tears blurred my vision. A tearing, splitting agony radiated from below, as if my body were being ripped in two. My hands were clamped in a death grip on the cold metal rails of the delivery bed, my knuckles white with the strain, threatening to bend the unyielding steel. I was in obstructed labor on the last day of my 39th week of pregnancy. New Year's Eve, my water broke without warning, and I was rushed to the hospital. Due to the baby's malposition, it triggered a massive hemorrhage. Blood kept draining from my body, taking my warmth and vitality with it. I felt like a leaking vessel. No matter how many blood bags the doctors pumped into me, they couldn't fill that vast, empty void. "It's not working. Her blood pressure keeps dropping. The patient is showing signs of shock. Quick, get the epinephrine ready." Where are the family members? The critical condition notice requires a family signature. Family, my husband, Xin Yuxing. With the last of my strength, I forced a hoarse whisper from my throat. "My phone. Get my phone. Call him." The nurse picked up the phone from my bedside. Her slender fingers slid across the screen, and then she looked at me with a troubled expression, her voice tinged with sympathy. "Mrs. Shen, your husband's phone. It's switched off." Switched off. Those 2 words were like an ice forged blade, piercing with chilling precision into my already shattered heart. It was New Year's Eve. I know where he is. He's probably with her right now. Lin Ruoxue, his first love, standing on a luxury yacht in Victoria Harbor, watching that once-in-a-century New Year's Eve fireworks extravaganza. Lin Ruoxue, the woman he's cherished in his heart for 10 years, his one true love, whom he sent abroad for meticulous care due to her heart condition and who has only recently returned, fully recovered. And me, Su Yan, I'm just the convenient, well-matched, obedient placeholder he chose to placate his family's pressure to marry. For 3 years of marriage, he treated me with impeccable courtesy, bestowing upon me all the dignity befitting Mrs. Shen. Everyone envied me for marrying well, but only I knew that his heart had never lingered on me for even a second. I naively believed the arrival of this child would change everything. Even in the lulls between contractions, I gazed out the window, foolishly dreaming, perhaps, upon seeing our child who so resembled him, a corner of his frozen heart would finally thaw for me. How utterly pathetic. Outside the window, a colossal firework exploded with a thunderous boom in the night sky. Its dazzling brilliance instantly illuminated the city's darkness, turning night into day. Then came a second, a third, thousands of fireworks, layer upon layer, cascaded in a radiant, shimmering spectacle, as beautiful as a dream. That light filtered through the cold glass of the delivery room window, falling upon my deathly pale face, slick with cold sweat. As I watched that resplendent night sky, another scene materialized with perfect clarity before my eyes. Shin Yuxing stood on the deck of the cruise ship, wrapping his expensive cashmere coat around her. He held Lin Ruoxue, beautiful and fragile in her white gown, tightly against his chest. The glow from the fireworks played across the handsome line of his profile, and in his eyes was a tenderness and intimacy I had never seen before. Profound and inescapable. Nestled in his arms, Lin Ruoxue gazed up at the fireworks, her face radiant with blissful contentment. They were the prince and princess from a fairy tale. Meanwhile, I, Su Yan, was alone in this delivery room reeking of blood and antiseptic, fighting a desperate, life-or-death battle like a cornered beast on the brink, my life hanging by a thread, my heart-rending agony. The child I was about to bring into the world for him. All of this was nothing more than a distant, insignificant backdrop in his perfect love story, not even a blip on the radar. Beep, the heart rate monitor emitted a piercing, deathly flatline. My world plunged into darkness. In the final second before my consciousness slipped away completely, I heard the doctor's desperate cry, "The patient's heart has stopped. Prepare for defibrillation." Fine, dying like this, I suppose it's a kind of release. Shin Yuxing, if there is a next life, I hope we never meet again too. Shut down, the night I killed love. I thought I was going to die, but a fierce will to live, or rather, a sense of responsibility for the unborn life inside me, wrenched me back from the very brink of the abyss. Defibrillation, CPR, an emergency C-section. I was like a shipwreck, shattered by the storm, painstakingly pieced back together by the doctors using every means at their disposal. When I regained consciousness, the fireworks outside the window had faded, and a pale, grayish dawn light was spreading across the horizon. The new year had arrived. I had survived. The baby had survived too. It was a boy, perfectly healthy. The nurse brought him to me so I could see him. He was so tiny and wrinkled, like a little red monkey, yet he slept peacefully, eyes closed, his tiny chest rising and falling with each breath. With a hand so weak I could barely lift it, I reached out and gently touched his cheek. That warm, soft sensation, like a faint electric current, instantly pierced the most tender part of my heart. This is my child. This is the child I fought for with my life, the one I snatched back from the jaws of death. Compared to him, that man Shin Yuxing, that farce called a marriage, that one-sided love affair into which I poured 3 years of my youth, all of it became utterly insignificant. After the nurse took the baby away, the hospital room fell back into a deathly silence. I lay on the bed like an empty shell, my soul drained away, staring vacantly at the ceiling. The images from that night play on a loop in my mind. Fireworks, a powered-off phone, a delivery room where I was utterly alone. No furious screams, no desperate sobs. My heart was like the ruins after a great fire, nothing left but cold, lifeless ash. Nothing is more sorrowful than a heart that has died. So, this is what it feels like. After what felt like an eternity, the door to the hospital room finally swung open. Shin Yuxing walked in, looking travel-worn and weary. He carried with him the chill of the late night and a faint, elusive trace of another woman's perfume. On his handsome face was a look of perfectly measured weariness and apology. Yan, I'm so sorry." He walked to my bedside and took my cold hand in his. "I was out at sea last night. There was no signal. Ruoxue, her heart condition has just improved, and she can't get agitated. I had to stay with her. I came the moment I got the message. Are you and the baby all right?" His explanation was flawless. His concern was perfectly measured. If this had happened before yesterday, I might have done what I always did, forced a meek smile, told him it's okay, you had no choice, I understand, and then swallowed all the grievance and pain, quietly, all by myself. But now, as I looked at his familiar face and listened to his equally familiar, flawless words, not a single ripple of emotion stirred within me. I simply withdrew my hand, calm and composed. Then, looking into his eyes, I asked 3 questions in a tone of calm so detached it felt foreign even to me. "If I had died last night, would you have been sad?" Shin Yuxing was taken aback, as if he hadn't expected me to ask such a question. He furrowed his brow, a hint of reproach in his tone. "Don't talk nonsense, you're perfectly fine, aren't you?" He dodged the question. I pressed on. What if we had lost the baby last night? Would you have regretted it?" His brow furrowed even deeper, his tone growing impatient. "Su Yan, You've just given birth, don't let your mind wander. The doctor said both mother and child are doing well, that's the best possible outcome. He dodged the question again. As I looked at him, the last pathetic, lingering ember of warmth in my heart finally went cold. I finally understood. In his mind, my child and I were nothing more than two essential, error-free components in his vast commercial empire and meticulously planned life. As long as we were safe and didn't cause him any trouble, he was satisfied. He never cared whether I was in pain or despair. Slowly, I closed my eyes. I'm tired, I need to rest. Those were the last words I ever said to him. Shin Yuxing seemed to realize he was in the wrong for his behavior last night, and didn't press the matter further. He tucked the blanket around me, instructed the nurse to take good care of me, and then excused himself, citing an urgent meeting at the office from start to finish. He never realized that beneath my calm exterior lay a farewell so resolute, so absolute. The moment he turned, walked away, and closed the door to the hospital room, in my heart, with my own hands, I killed the foolish version of myself who had loved him for 3 years. I have killed the thing called love. From this moment on, my life will have nothing more to do with him. I, Su Yan, will live for myself, and for my child, for once. 3. Feigning death to escape. From today, there is no more Mrs. Shin in this world. Shin Yuxing's day of reckoning had already begun to smolder the moment he walked out of the hospital room, yet, he himself remained completely oblivious to it. He thought it was just another minor marital spat, one that could be easily smoothed over with expensive gifts and a few insincere apologies. That very afternoon, he even had his assistant deliver an extravagant peace offering, the deed to a top-tier luxury penthouse in the city's prime downtown district, along with a black credit card with no spending limit. This is his go-to way of expressing apology. The old me might have been flattered, might have seen it as his way of compensating for and caring about me, but now, looking at those cold, wealth-symbolizing things, I feel nothing but profound irony. He thinks everything I've done, everything I've endured, can be measured in money. I had the nurse return all of these things, exactly as they were. My action, it seemed, finally made Shin Yuxing sense that something was amiss. In the following days, he came to the hospital every day. He stopped mentioning Lin Ruoxue and instead, clumsily, tried to learn how to be a proper husband and father. He would attempt to hold the baby, peel an apple for me, and sit by my bedside to share amusing anecdotes from work. He was playing the part of a good husband, and I was playing the part of a docile wife who had already forgiven him. I smiled at him, listened to him, and accepted his care. My performance was flawless, so convincing, I almost started to believe it myself. But beneath this calm facade, a bold and meticulous plan was rapidly taking shape in my mind. I have to leave. I need to leave. Not just him, but this suffocating cage built around high society and the Shin family. I will take my child and vanish from this world, completely and utterly. This plan may sound like a fantasy, but to me, it's entirely feasible, because I, Su Yan, was never just the meek and obedient Mrs. Shin. That was merely a mask I wore to please him, to play the role of the wife he desired. Beneath that mask, I am a daughter of the Su family, not the current Su family, clinging to life through a marriage alliance. It was the real Su family, the one that, decades ago, stood at the pinnacle of the nation's scientific and technological achievements, only to be torn apart by a political upheaval and completely erased from history. My grandfather was one of the most brilliant scientists of that era. Growing up surrounded by it, I absorbed knowledge from those seemingly useless, dusty old papers, dismissed by my father as a waste of time, knowledge that most people in this age cannot even begin to comprehend. I know how to use the most inconspicuous resources to forge an untraceable identity. I know how to exploit loopholes in the hospital system and certain forgotten rules to execute a perfect disappearance. My chance came soon enough. 1 week postpartum, my body, due to the previous massive hemorrhage and difficult labor, developed severe complications, postpartum depression, accompanied by signs of organ failure. My body rapidly deteriorated. It's true that delivery nearly drained me of all my vitality, but this, too, was part of my plan. I consciously relinquished part of my will to live, allowing my vital signs to deteriorate. Shin Yuxing was genuinely panicked this time. He summoned the nation's top specialists and mobilized every connection and resource the Shin family possessed in a desperate attempt to pull me back from the brink. Lin Ruoxue had come too. She stood before my hospital bed in a white dress, as beautiful and ethereal as a lotus untouched by the dust of the world. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a sincere, almost sorrowful pity. Su Yan, she said softly, you must get better, Yuxing. He can't be without you. We all need you. We, such a clever, yet such a cruel word. I looked at her and smiled. Then, right in front of everyone, I slipped into a deep coma. What followed was resuscitation, electric shocks, and another cardiac arrest this time. The doctors could not work another miracle at 4:13 in the morning. The hospital declared me dead, I heard. Shin Yuxing's choked, agonized roar beside my corpse. I heard Lin Ruashiwa's perfectly measured, sorrowful sobs. I heard my so-called family, my father and stepmother, discussing how to use my death to extort another sum of compensation money from the Shin family, a farcical drama of the human condition in all its forms, and I, the protagonist of this drama, had long since been smuggled out, in complete silence, through the hospital's underground morgue, with the help of an old, soon-to-retire orderly whom I had bribed with a vast sum of money. My child, even earlier, had been transferred to another inconspicuous private hospital under the pretext of neonatal jaundice requiring isolation treatment. A great fire would burn all the records in the morgue. A flawless, forged death certificate will put the perfect, final punctuation on my life story. From today, Mrs. Shin Su-yen ceases to exist in this world. There remains only an Avenger codenamed Prometheus, and a new life I must devote my entire existence to protecting. Inside an inconspicuous van, I drove towards an unknown horizon. Bathed in the light of dawn, my new life begins. For the sealed laboratory, the legacy I inherited will change the world. 5 years later, the shores of Lake Geneva, Switzerland, within a heavily fortified private estate, hidden deep in the heart of the Alps, I, or rather, my current self, Dr. Eve, stand at the center of a vast laboratory brimming with futuristic technology. Beyond the massive floor to ceiling windows lies a tranquil, picturesque landscape of lakes and mountains. Inside the lab, however, the scene is entirely different. Hundreds of holographic screens float silently in the air, cascading with torrents of data streams. At the lab's core, a spherical supercomputer, constructed from an unknown liquid metal, pulses rhythmically, emitting a soft, blue glow. This is the final legacy my grandfather left for me, and for the world, a top-tier artificial intelligence and neuroscience laboratory, sealed away for nearly half a century and at least 100 years ahead of its time. Back then, with my child in tow, I traveled across multiple countries. In the end, using the last key my mother left behind and the passcode etched in my memory, I reopened this place. For these past 5 years, I haven't wasted a single second. I immersed myself completely in an ocean of knowledge. I activated the lab's core AI, Athena. It contained all the research findings and the lifelong wisdom of my grandfather and the era's most brilliant scientists. It was as if I stood on the shoulders of giants, completing those great, very interrupted studies at an astonishing pace. My primary focus was on brain-computer interfaces and consciousness uploading. For these 5 years, I wasn't just learning, I was restoring and creating. I have successfully brought to life the neural transcoding algorithm from my grandfather's theory. This means that the complex, chaotic bioelectrical signals in the human brain, what we call thoughts and emotions, can now be precisely and losslessly translated into standardized data that computers can understand. Based on this technology, I have developed an entirely new system. I have named it Oracle. It will herald the next epoch of human civilization. Mommy, a clear, childlike voice, carrying a trace of calmness beyond its years, came from behind me. I turned around and smiled at my son. I named him Sun Yen, the Yen in Sin Yen, meaning longing or miss. He was 5 years old, dressed in a miniature white lab coat, sitting intently on a hover chair as he stared at a light screen before him. Displayed on the screen was a simulation program he had written himself, concerning the stability of quantum foam. Yes, my son, Sun Yen, is an undisputed genius. His IQ is so high it defies measurement by any existing standard. By the age of 2, he had mastered 17 languages. At 3, he had read through all of my grandfather's research manuscripts. By 4, he had begun offering constructive suggestions in some of my own research, insights so brilliant they even impressed Athena. He is my pride, the entire meaning of my life, and my most perfect creation. He inherited the Su family's finest scientific genes and grew up in a pure, intellectually focused environment, completely free from outside interference. His mind, like a sponge, voraciously absorbed everything in this laboratory that was ahead of its time. Mom, the first batch of civilian-grade ports for the Oracle system has completed its final stress tests. Sun Yan looked up, his eyes, so like Shin Yuxing's yet infinitely clearer and more profound, meeting mine. The yield rate is 99-97%, and power consumption is 3-2% lower than projected. They're ready for mass production at any time. Excellent. I nodded, walked over to him, and ruffled his soft hair. It's time for our Prometheus Corporation to make its voice heard to the world. Over the past 5 years, I haven't just been doing research. I also quietly built a vast commercial empire. leveraging a secret network of global academic funds left to me by my grandfather. Prometheus Biotechnology Co., Limited. The company's headquarters is located in an offshore tax haven. No one knows who its true owner is. Like a phantom, it uses its substantial capital to hold controlling stakes in dozens of the world's top precision manufacturing and biopharmaceutical companies. I have paved every single road for the arrival of the Oracle system, Athena. I issued the command, activate Project First Light, dispatch encrypted invitations to 100 of the world's most influential figures across all domains, include artists, scientists, financial titans, and those in need of inspiration. Command received, Dr. Eve. Invitations are being generated and encrypted for dispatch. My gaze fell upon a single name on the invitation list, Lin Ruoxiue, the former piano prodigy, Xin Yuxing's unforgettable first love according to public information gathered by Athena. After returning to her home country, she enjoyed a brief period of glory before quickly hitting a creative wall. She could no longer compose music that touched people's hearts. Gradually, she transformed from a gifted artist into a decorative vase. Relying on her status as Xin Yuxing's girlfriend to stay relevant, she must be desperately in need of inspiration. A cold, mirthless curve lifted the corner of my mouth. Xin Yuxing, are you and your world ready? I, Su Yan, have returned. No, to be precise, a brand new me, one you could never comprehend, has arrived. 5. Prodigy baby, my son, a quantum physics was at age 5. The First Light project is progressing even more smoothly than I anticipated. After experiencing the basic functions of the Oracle system, every single one of those 100 individuals at the pinnacle of the world was, without exception, plunged into profound shock and fervor. A celebrated, veteran writer, by wearing our inspiration capture headset, instantly transformed the fleeting, amorphous ideas in his mind into a clear, coherent, and logically rigorous 10,000-word outline. A top-tier F1 driver, using the neural reaction acceleration module in a simulator, shaved 0.05 seconds off his reaction time. In their world, that's the chasm between a god and a mortal. Meanwhile, Lin Ruoxiue, my dear former romantic rival, was under our remote guidance, experiencing the emotional resonance program. This program can extract the most intense emotions embedded within humanity's greatest artistic works, Beethoven's rage, Van Gogh's fervor, Li Bai's untrammeled spirit, and directly infuse them as a data stream into the user's cerebral cortex. For an artist whose inspiration has run dry, this is nothing less than the most lethal drug. Just as expected, 3 days later, Lin Ruoxiue released a brand new piano piece titled Nirvana. The piece, with its intricate technique and profound emotion, exuded a grand, masterful presence. Upon its release, it stunned the entire classical music world and was hailed as a masterpiece that marked the return of a genius. Once again, she was back in the spotlight. Xin Yuxing threw a grand celebration for her rebirth. At the banquet, gazing at his radiant white moonlight, restored to her former glory, his eyes brimmed with the pride and affection of something precious regained. None of them had any idea Lin Ruoxiue's Nirvana was nothing more than a small, precisely targeted advertisement campaign by my company, Prometheus, and now, in my laboratory, another, higher dimensional lesson is underway. Look here, Nian Nian, I said to Sun Yan, pointing at a black hole model undergoing gravitational collapse on the holographic star chart. When matter density approaches infinity, our known laws of physics break down. This is the singularity. What form do you think information takes after entering it? The 5-year-old Sun Yan floated in his hover chair, resting his chin on his hand in a thoughtful, adult-like manner. In his clear, bright eyes shone not the innocence of a child, but a pure, unadulterated curiosity for the universe's ultimate mysteries. Mommy, he said in a childish lisp, yet his words were earth-shattering. I think information itself might be a higher dimensional existence, independent of any physical medium. A black hole might not be the end of information, but rather, a formatting port. It formats the information from our 3-dimensional universe and transmits it to a higher dimensional world. I nodded in approval. This idea aligns perfectly with the boldest conjecture in my grandfather's manuscript. This is just a typical day for Sun Yan and me. While other children were still crying over a piece of candy, my son was already discussing the origin and end of the universe with me. I never saw him as a child who needed looking after. I saw him as an equal, an independent-minded, spiritual companion. I gave him everything I could, the finest knowledge, the most liberating environment, and a love that was unreserved and singular. One day, while he was studying the underlying code of Athena at his light screen, he suddenly looked up and asked me a question. Mommy, according to the records about your old world in the database, I'm supposed to have a father, right? My heart tightened just a little. It was bound to happen. And now it has. I didn't avoid it, nor did I lie. Calmly, I told him the story of that night of blood and fireworks, the one I had sealed deep in my memory, using the most objective, emotionless language I could muster. I told him what kind of man his father was. I told him how I had risked life and limb to bring him into this world. Sun Yan listened quietly the whole time. His face showed neither anger nor sorrow, only a cold, detached calm that was utterly at odds with his age. After hearing it all, he remained silent for a long time. Then, he looked up at me and said earnestly, "Mommy, I understand. From a biological perspective, he provided half of my genes. I should thank him for giving me the same excellent hardware as you, but from a sociological perspective, he has not fulfilled any of the responsibilities of a father. Therefore, there is no obligation for any emotional connection between him and me. To me, he is just a gene provider, a completely insignificant stranger." Having said that, he turned his head back and resumed studying his code, as if the discussion had been nothing more than a dry, academic topic completely unrelated to him. Watching his small, receding figure, I felt a mix of relief and a faint, almost imperceptible pang of heartache. I had molded him into an utterly rational monster, just like me. Was this truly for his own good? Athena, initiate Project Phoenix. I silently issued the hidden command to the AI in my mind. Command received. Dr. Eve. Project Phoenix was the final gift I prepared for Sun Yan. It was also my last act of selfishness as a mother. Just then, Sun Yan suddenly turned back again. "Mommy, if, one day, that genetic donor named Shin Yuxing comes looking for us and tries to hurt you, I'll protect you." He said this with a calm expression, but on the luminous screen before him, lines of code were scrolling at a breathtaking speed. That was a piece of virus code, one I had never taught him, designed for cyber warfare and possessing devastating offensive capabilities. I looked at him and smiled a genuine smile. From the heart. My son was not without emotion. He simply poured all of his affection into me, and me alone. Hearing him say that is more than enough. 6. The Oracle system unveiled. When thoughts can be written directly to a chip, the First Light project has sent shockwaves through elite circles. Those 100 beta testers became the most fervent disciples of the Oracle system. They leveraged all their influence to feverishly build hype for our upcoming, official product launch. Overnight, the enigmatic company Prometheus and its groundbreaking Oracle system became the hottest topic in global tech and finance circles. Our stock price was driven to astronomical levels by major investment banks even before the company went public. As for me, I was simply waiting for the perfect moment to launch. That moment arrived sooner than expected. The annual World Artificial Intelligence Conference was about to convene in San Francisco. All the world's top tech giants would gather to unveil their latest research and developments. Naturally, the center of attention was Shin Yuxing's Tianqing Group. Over the past 5 years, Shin Yuxing's business had expanded tremendously. Leveraging his keen business acumen and formidable tactics, he had built Tianqing Group into the undisputed dominant force in China's AI sector. He himself had become a legendary business icon, revered by countless young people. He was at the pinnacle of his life. At this year's conference, he would take the stage as the final keynote speaker to unveil Tianqing OS 4.0, the core product on which Tianqing Group had spent a fortune and 5 years of intensive R&D. Reportedly, it was a revolutionary operating system based on brainwave recognition. Users could execute simple, imprecise commands through thought alone. For instance, merely thinking about it could open an application. At the time, this technology already represented the cutting edge of the industry. The day of the launch event captured the world's attention. Shin Yuxing, standing center stage in a perfectly tailored black suit, radiated confidence. In a rich, magnetic voice, he painted his vision for the future of human-computer interaction to the world. Tianqing OS 4.0 will completely free your hands. Thought will become the new language. His speech was met with thunderous applause from the audience. I didn't go to the venue. I just sat there in the control room of our lab with Sun Yan, watching his live stream like it was some tedious silent film. "Mommy, his algorithm is still stuck at the pattern recognition stage," Sun Yan commented with unnerving precision, her voice still childlike as she sipped her milk. "They're just identifying specific, crude EEG patterns generated by brain activity and matching them to commands. This method is inefficient, has a high error rate, and will never grasp the true essence of thought." "Exactly." I nodded. "It's like a rudimentary speech recognition system that only understands hello and goodbye. What we're aiming for is simultaneous interpretation." I checked the time. It was about time. Right at the climax of Shin Yuxing's speech, the moment he was about to begin the live demonstration, I pressed a red button on the console in front of me. Phase 2 has commenced. Almost simultaneously across the globe, on every major media screen, every social network headline, And every device streaming the live press conference, a video was abruptly and forcibly inserted. The video opened with the sacred, flame-engulfed logo of Prometheus Corporation. Then, it was me, Dr. Eve, appearing on screen, wearing a silver mask that covered the upper half of my face. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My voice, processed to sound steady and resonant, continued. My apologies for interrupting the fascinating presentation on the past you were all watching, because I am here to show you what the future truly looks like, in the conference hall. Shin Yuxing's smile froze on his face, watching his own screen behind him being replaced by my image. His expression instantly turned grim. I am Eve, the chief scientist at Prometheus Corporation. Today, I will formally introduce to you our product, the Oracle system. Mr. Shin's Tianqing OS allows you to issue commands with your thoughts. My Oracle system, however, can directly and completely write your very thoughts themselves onto a single chip. As I spoke, I picked up a tiny, crystal-like biochip. Imagine this, a 5 million word novel. You no longer need to spend years writing it, you simply need to conceive the entire story in your mind. 1 second later, the digital manuscript appears on your computer, a complex symphony. You no longer need to study music theory or read sheet music, you just need to hum that melody in your head. The next moment, a complete score, with all its orchestration, is automatically generated. A dying scientist, terminally ill, can back up his lifetime of wisdom, all his memories, his great mind, completely, onto this chip, achieving another form of immortality. My words spread across the entire world through the network. The whole world fell into a dead silence. Everyone was awestruck by the miraculous future I had depicted. This is the divine revelation. We are not merely identifying thoughts, we are backing up the soul. That concludes our presentation. In 1 hour, Prometheus Corporation will officially commence the global pre-sale of the Oracle Type 1 personal port. Thank you. The video ended. The auditorium fell into a dead silence. Everyone on the scene looked at Shin Yuxing on the stage, his face as pale as paper, with a gaze full of pity, as if he were a prehistoric relic. His Tianqing OS 4.0 looked pathetically fragile, like a joke, next to the Oracle system that claimed to back up the soul. I did not humiliate him. I simply used a technical, absolute, and overwhelming display of superiority to gently nudge him and his proud empire from the center of the stage. This was my first welcome back gift to him. 7. His cherished ideal became my user. The launch of the Oracle system sent shockwaves around the globe, an event of seismic proportions. Overnight, Prometheus Corporation transformed from a mysterious legend into a revered technological deity. Our pre-sale website crashed multiple times within the first minute due to overwhelming traffic. The first batch of 1 million Oracle Type I personal ports sold out in a mere 10 minutes. Our market capitalization skyrocketed to a staggering, almost unfathomable figure, one that even the most bullish Wall Street analysts couldn't wrap their heads around. Meanwhile, Tianqing Group emerged as the biggest loser. The launch event debacle was the final straw. Their stock price hit the limit down threshold the moment the market opened the next day. The once highly touted Tianqing OS became the biggest laughingstock in tech history. Countless investors and partners pulled their funding and terminated contracts. Shin Yuxing's business empire showed its first signs of teetering on the brink. I have little interest in this. Destroying him is merely a byproduct for me, not the ultimate goal. What truly concerns me is the profound transformation the Oracle system will bring to this world, and the first specimen to show me this transformation was Lin Ruoxue. After creating the song Nirvana using the Oracle's emotional resonance program, she got a taste for it and became one of our first and most loyal seed users. She became utterly dependent on this external infusion of inspiration. She no longer needed to agonize over composition or seek profound experiences. All she had to do was browse our emotional material library like a supermarket, picking out the products she desired. Today it was Beethoven's rage, tomorrow Chopin's melancholy, the day after Mozart's joy. She would then download these canned emotions into her brain and assemble them into pieces that sounded technically dazzling and emotionally rich. She had become a prolific musical tailor. Her fame grew and grew. Commercial performances, endorsements, and interviews filled her schedule to the brim. She became a goddess worshipped by countless fans, but only I and my Athena know her soul is withering away rapidly. In an irreversible way, she has lost the ability to create independently. She has lost touch with her own true feelings. She even asked our customer service in confusion during a user follow-up. I can no longer tell which emotions are my own and which come from your content library. She is becoming a beautiful, hollow shell, built from data and algorithms. This is the most terrifying aspect of the Oracle system. It can grant you everything. It can also strip you of everything. That day, I received a call from an old friend. It was Auntie Chen. The elderly nurse who once helped me fake my death to escape at the hospital. Back then, I gave her a large sum of money. Enough for her and her family to live out their years comfortably overseas. We had maintained a single line of contact. Aside from Sun Yen, she was the only person in this world who knew about my past. Yen. Auntie Chen's voice on the other end of the line carried a hint of hesitation. There's something I'm not sure if I should tell you. Go ahead, Auntie Chen. Mr. Shen, I think he's starting to suspect you. My heart gave a faint stir. What makes you say that? The police never closed the case on that morgue fire 5 years ago. Recently, Mr. Shen used some connections to reopen the investigation. Aunt Chen's voice was tinged with worry. He doesn't seem to believe you're really dead. He's been looking for you. I fell silent. 5 years. I thought he had forgotten all about me. I thought he would live happily ever after with his one that got away. I never imagined he would still be looking for me. Is it for that ridiculous thing called love, or is it for that male sense of unyielding possessiveness? I'm not sure, but I knew the calm waters of my life were about to be stirred. I understand, Auntie Chen, I said calmly. Don't worry. Take care of yourself. I'll handle the rest. After hanging up, I walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window in the lab. Outside the window, Sun Yen, wearing a sleek pair of oracle glasses, was enthusiastically designing a brand new, photosynthetic artificial life form in a virtual garden. He is the hope of my new world, yet the shadow from the old world, the one entangled in my past, seems unwilling to let me go so easily. So be it. Since you insist on searching, very well, I'll grant you the chance for a reunion. It's Shen Yuxing. When that time comes, I hope you can bear the price of meeting me again. 8. An olive branch from a multinational giant. He says my brain is worth trillions. Shen Yuxing's investigation hasn't caused me any real trouble. I'm no longer the helpless new mother from 5 years ago, who had to rely on a hospital's loophole to escape. The resources and power I now command are enough to make any routine investigation into me a complete joke. Athena, I commanded, initiate the MIST protocol, perform deep data obfuscation and overriding on all traces related to Su Yan from 5 years ago. Acknowledged. Dr. Eve, the MIST protocol is now active. Within 12 hours, all relevant electronic and physical records will converge to form a perfect, closed loop, pointing conclusively to a logical accidental death. All Shen Yuxing will ever uncover is a flawlessly crafted truth, meticulously woven by my own hand. The deeper he digs, the more certain he will become that his wife, Su Yan, truly died that winter 5 years ago. As for me, I turned my focus to more important matters. The launch of the Oracle system didn't just disrupt the consumer market. It caught the attention of the true titan standing at the very apex of the global power pyramid. Soon after, an invitation with the highest level of encryption found its way into my hands. The invitation came from the Consortium, a legendary, shadowy organization rumored to be composed of the world's top financial oligarchs, tech giants, and political elites, one that holds the global economy's lifeline in its grasp. They wanted to meet me. The meeting was held aboard the Olympus, a superyacht so vast it resembled a floating city, cruising the Pacific Ocean. I didn't bring any bodyguards, only Sun Yan. As I entered the conference room, decorated like a medieval palace, wearing a silver mask and holding Sun Yan's hand, every eye in the room turned to me. Seated around the table were Wall Street's Wolf King, an oil prince from the Middle East, the heir to Europe's oldest banking dynasty, and the founders of several major Silicon Valley tech giants. Any one of them could send shockwaves through the global economy with a single misstep, and at this moment, they were all looking at me with scrutinizing, curious, and even faintly covetous eyes. Seated at the head of the table was Dr. Eve, a white-haired American elder whose gaze remained as sharp as a hawk's. He was John D. Rockefeller III, the current rotating chairman of the Freemasons and the shadow master of the world's largest investment bank. Welcome, he said with a smile, his tone carrying the undeniable authority of one accustomed to command. Your Oracle system is a masterpiece. It will change the future of humanity. Thanks for the compliment, I replied calmly, guiding Sun Yan to sit down across from them. We invited you here today to discuss a business proposition. Rockefeller III got straight to the point. We wish to acquire your Prometheus company, or rather, we wish to acquire you, and your mind. He paused, then named a figure that would drive the entire world into a frenzy. We can write you a check for $1 trillion. Furthermore, we offer you the highest-ranking membership within the Freemasons. You will join us as one of the world's chess players. $1 trillion. This figure transcends the mere concept of wealth. It represents a kind of power that allows one to do absolutely anything. It's a temptation that virtually no one could refuse. Yet, I merely smiled. Mr. Rockefeller, I said slowly, your offer is very generous, but I think you may have misunderstood one thing. Oh, what you and the old capital you represent value is the oracle system, this goose that lays the golden eggs, but as for me, Su Yan, I paused, then removed the mask from my face to reveal my true self. Then, I pointed to my temple. I am the one who can, at any moment, create countless geese that lay even more golden eggs than that one. So, you think my brain is only worth a trillion? My words plunged all the titans present into a profound silence. For the first time, they sensed a force emanating from one individual, a power that transcended capital and authority, existing on a higher plane. It was the power of creation. So, what is it you want? The look in John D. Rockefeller III's eyes grew more grave than ever before. What I want is beyond your means to give. I shook my head. I have no need to join you, nor to become some player of the game, because I will be the one who sets the rules of the board for all of you. From this day forward, the core technology of the Oracle system will forever remain in my hands alone, and if you wish to board this train to the future, there is only one thing you can do. That is to become my most faithful partner. I stood up and, taking Sun Yan by the hand, walked toward the door. My team will discuss the details of our cooperation with you. Oh, one more thing. I paused at the doorway, turned back to look at the financial magnates who were still reeling in shock, and added, my son, Sun Yan, he is the sole legal heir to the Prometheus Corporation. Sun Yan gave a slight, polite bow to the most powerful old man in the world. Then, in a voice that was young yet crystal clear, he said, greetings, grandfathers, I look forward to our future cooperation. With that, he turned and left the opulent conference room. Left behind were the kings of a bygone era, who for the first time felt an emotion called fear emanating from a 5-year-old child. They knew that from this day forward, the world's power structure was about to change. 9. His business empire teetered on the brink of being rendered obsolete by me. The meeting with the Freemasons provided Prometheus Corporation with an immense boost. Those once untouchable financial magnates and tech titans, having witnessed my unassailable technological moat and unwavering resolve, humbled themselves and extended olive branches to me with unprecedented fervor. They became the most powerful global agents for my Oracle system. Prometheus officially transformed from a tech company into a technical standard setter that stands above all capital, and I, leveraging their vast resources, began to implement my next phase plan worldwide, universal enlightenment. I opened the educational port of the Oracle system. Any child, whether born in a bustling metropolis or an impoverished village, could directly download the most elite knowledge in human history from the cloud simply by wearing our affordable educational headset. Language, mathematics, physics, art. For the first time, the transmission of human civilization was no longer confined by the barriers of geography or class. A brand new era of knowledge explosion had arrived. Yet, in this magnificent tide of civilizational evolution, masterminded by my own hand, there were always a few old world reefs that stood out as so incongruous and, frankly, laughable. Shin Yuxing's Tianqing Group was the most stubborn holdout among them. After that disastrous press conference, Tianqing Group was left reeling, but Shin Yuxing was, after all, a formidable figure of his era. He didn't just wait for the end. Instead, he made a drastic, all-or-nothing move. He severed all AI operating system-related businesses and funneled the company's entire resources into his area of expertise, commercial real estate and luxury goods. He attempted to use what he understood as the most traditional real economy to counter the virtual revolution I had brought about. He invested a colossal sum to construct a series of super-commercial complexes across major cities nationwide, named Tianqing Centers. They integrated shopping, entertainment, and residential living. He and Lin Ruoxue, that golden couple, frequently attended various fashion galas and charity auctions, attempting to counter my technology-first cold wave with the refinement and taste of high society they so carefully cultivated. It must be said that his strategy was effective in the short term. Thanks to his efforts, Tianqing Group's stock price halted its decline and even saw a slight rebound. He seemed to have regained his footing. Little did he know, a dimensional strike targeting his kind of old business model had long been part of my plan. That day, Sun Yan came to me with a tablet. Mommy, based on the latest social model projections from Athena, he said, pointing at the complex data curves on the screen, with the widespread adoption of the Oracle Education Portal, the average human knowledge level is projected to increase by at least 200% within the next 3 years. People's consumption mindset will undergo a fundamental transformation. They will no longer be satisfied with purchasing expensive status symbols like luxury handbags and sports cars. They will be more willing to pay for knowledge, experiences, And self-actualization, the underlying logic of Mr. Shin Yuxing's business empire is built upon information asymmetry and consumerist traps. Our technology is fundamentally dismantling this very logic. According to the model's projections, Tianqing Group's market value will shrink by over 90% in 3 years. It will go bankrupt. I looked at Sun Yan and nodded approvingly. You're absolutely right, Nian Nian, I said. But 3 years is too long. I'm going to speed up the process. I powered up my personal terminal and connected to Athena, directive issued, commence Project Eden, Project Core, to build a fully immersive, virtual second world based on the Oracle system. In this world, people can experience any life they desire. You can become a knight battling a dragon in a medieval castle. You can become a captain exploring the unknown universe aboard a starship. You can witness a gladiatorial match in a virtual Roman Colosseum, or attend a never-ending concert in a virtual Vienna Golden Hall. All your senses and every experience will be indistinguishable from the real world. The ticket to enter this world will be incredibly cheap. Nian Nian, I asked my son, when people can experience a life in Eden that's 100 million times more thrilling than reality for just the price of a cup of coffee, who would still be willing to spend millions at Shin Yuxing's Tianqing Center to buy a bag? That's only good for showing off. Sun Yan's eyes lit up. I understand now, Mom, he said excitedly. This isn't business competition, this is replacement. Yes, I said with a smile, gently stroking his head. We will offer humanity a dream, cheaper, better, and fairer than reality, and Shin Yuxing's commercial empire, along with the gaudy old world it represents, built on materialism and vanity, will find itself standing on the brink of being utterly obsolete. 10. Reunion, Mr. Shin. Please make an appointment first if you wish to see me. The launch of the Eden project became the final straw that broke the back of the old commercial world when people realized they could fulfill all their dreams in an infinitely vast and spectacular virtual world. The expensive luxury goods used to build status in the real world instantly became worthless. Tianqing Group was the first to bear the brunt. Their luxury malls are deserted, their high-end properties find no buyers, their stock prices have completely collapsed. Shin Yuxing, the once revered business titan, could only watch helplessly as the empire he built from the ground up was washed away by the unstoppable tide of technological change. Like a sandcastle on the shore, he had finally run out of options. He became desperate to see me. The person he wanted to meet was the elusive Dr. Eve, the mysterious founder of Prometheus Corporation, whose name he knew only by reputation. He came to me seeking a way out, a chance to survive. He exhausted all his connections and spent his last remaining favors to finally submit, through a peripheral member of the Freemasons, a request for an audience. Its wording so humble it bordered on pleading. I agreed. The meeting place was set in the top-floor reception room of Prometheus Corporation's new headquarters in Shanghai. That day, I wore no mask. I wore a simple white lab coat, my long hair tied back casually, with no makeup on. There I sat, a Su Yan in my true form, quietly awaiting his arrival. 3 o'clock sharp. The door to the reception room slowly swung open. Shin Yuxing entered. 5 years had passed. He looked far more haggard than before. The once spirited and determined look in his eyes had been replaced by weariness and anxiety, yet, the innate pride of a man accustomed to command still held him together, a stubborn force propping him up. The moment he walked in, his first glance landed on my chief assistant standing beside me. He assumed the woman in the professional suit, radiating authority, was Dr. Eve. Meanwhile, I, a young woman who looked like an ordinary researcher, was instinctively overlooked by him. It wasn't until my assistant bowed respectfully to me and said, Dr. Eve, Mr. Shin is here, that the situation changed. Only then did Shin Yuxing's gaze, tinged with a hint of astonishment, slowly shift to settle on my face. Time seemed to freeze in that moment. His pupils contracted violently, his body froze in place. For the first time, his face, which had remained an unreadable, placid lake through countless major events, betrayed a look of utter, ghost-seeing shock and disbelief. Su Yan, he forced the 2 syllables from his throat. His voice was hoarse, dry, and thick with absurdity. I looked at him, at this man I had once loved and once hated. 5 years had passed. I thought my heart would be swept up in a tidal wave of emotion upon seeing him again, but it wasn't. My heart was as still and lifeless as a stagnant pond. I looked at him as if he were an irrelevant, corrupted piece of old data in a database. I slowly raised my hand in a gesture that said, please, have a seat. Then, in a tone that was polite yet distant, the kind reserved for a mere business associate, I began to speak. Hello, Mr. Shen, I'm Eve, the founder of Prometheus. I heard you wanted to see me, but next time, please remember to make an appointment first. My words struck him like an invisible, stinging slap across the face. He hadn't come to meet Some mysterious tech oracle. He had come to face the wife he had abandoned, a woman returned from the dead. From the very start, this business meeting had turned into a brutally public and cruel trial for him. 11. Paternity test. He finally realized what he had missed. Shin Yuxing finally sat down in front of me. His body was rigid, his mind seemed still trapped in that immense, surreal shock. Unable to function properly. You're alive. He looked at me, his eyes filled with utter confusion. As you can see, I replied calmly, sliding a document across the table toward him. Mr. Shen, let's get straight to business. This is the preliminary proposal drafted by our legal department for the acquisition of Tianqing Group's core assets. Please take a look. I got straight to the point, giving him no opportunity to reminisce or play the emotional card. He looked at the document but made no move to pick it up. His gaze was fixed intently on my face, as if trying to find some trace of the Su Yen he once knew beneath my composed expression. Why, he rasped, his voice hoarse, why would you do this? Fake your death, disappear, and then become this? Why? I laughed, a smile devoid of any warmth. Mr. Shen, that's a rather redundant question, don't you think? 5 years ago, on New Year's Eve, I was lying on the delivery table, hemorrhaging, fighting for my life, and you had your phone off, watching fireworks with your white moonlight. Is that reason good enough for you? My words pierced the deepest recesses of his memory like a sharp awl. His face instantly turned deathly pale. He opened his mouth as if to explain, but realized any justification would be utterly feeble in the face of that bloody truth. Just then, the door to the reception room was gently pushed open. Mommy, Sun Yan walked in holding a tablet, dressed in a little suit with his hair meticulously combed. He looked like an exquisite little prince straight out of a fairy tale. He walked over to me and naturally handed me the tablet, reporting the progress of a European project to me in fluent German. Shin Yuxing's gaze froze completely the instant he saw Sun Yan. That face, that small face, so like his own yet imbued with a clarity and spirit he lacked. That age, the son who should have been his, missing from his life for 5 long years. He is. Shin Yuxing's voice trembled violently, choked with overwhelming emotion. Sun Yan finished his report, then, he turned his head, his deep-set eyes, a mirror image of Shin Yuxing's, regarding the strange man who had intruded into his world with a calm, steady gaze. He didn't ask, "Who are you?" He simply raised the child-sized oracle terminal on his wrist and gave Shin Yuxing a gentle scan. 1 second later, a look of understanding, tinged with a hint of academic curiosity, crossed Sun Yan's face. "Oh," he said in a childish voice, uttering the words most cruel to Shin Yuxing. "So you're the genetic donor who provided my Y chromosome. Hello, Mr. Shen, I'm Sun Yan. It's a pleasure to meet you." As he spoke, he even extended a small, friendly hand towards Shin Yuxing. That scene completely shattered Shin Yuxing's last line of defense. His reason: he no longer needed any ridiculous paternity test. The person before him, in both appearance and a terrifying intellect that defied his age, was undeniably proclaiming a truth he had once cast aside with his own hands. He had a son, a perfect genius son he wouldn't have dared to dream of, and he missed it. He missed his own birth, missed his first words, missed his first steps. I missed out on 5 whole years of his life. He finally realized what he had truly lost. It was not a mistake that could be undone. It was a vast, eternal void he had carved out of his own life with his own hands. Whoa, this iron-willed man, who had never known defeat in the business world, at this moment, right in front of me and his own son, broke down and sobbed like a child. 12. The kneeling white moonlight. She begged me not to ruin his life. Shin Yuxing's breakdown left me utterly unmoved. I simply watched quietly as he cried like a lost child. Sun Yan, meanwhile, tilted her head and observed him with a purely academic gaze, as if studying the stress response of an unknown creature. "Mommy," he whispered in my ear, "according to the database, when humans experience severe psychological shock, their tear glands secrete excessive fluid to relieve stress. His reaction fits the model. It's just that the intensity of this emotional response seems to have exceeded the normal threshold." I patted his head without saying a word. In the end, it was my perceptive assistant who tactfully escorted the now discomposed Shin Yuxing out of the reception room. Naturally, this so-called business meeting came to nothing, but I knew this was only the beginning. From that day on, Shin Yuxing went to insane lengths, trying to win my forgiveness and begging for a chance to get close to Sun Yan. He was no longer the lofty and unapproachable Mr. Shen. He had become the most humble of suitors. He would have someone deliver my once favorite, freshest white roses every single day without fail. He would stand outside the Prometheus building waiting all day long, rain or shine, just to catch a glimpse of me when I got off work. He even bought the office building next to my company, just to be a little closer to me, to the outside world. His actions became a dramatic, deeply moving real-life spectacle of a tycoon's desperate pursuit to win back his love. Countless media outlets are reporting on how this business titan has turned over a new leaf and cast aside his dignity for a mysterious woman. Only I know the truth, how utterly absurd all of this is. The more he acts this way, the more it proves he never truly understood me. He thinks I'm still the Su Yan from 5 years ago, craving those cheap, hollow gestures of romance and ceremony. He doesn't get it. The Su Yan I am now has long since outgrown the need for any of that, and the first person to understand this wasn't Xin Yuxing, it was Lin Ruoxue. She had found me without an appointment. She had practically begged my assistant in a pleading manner for a chance to see me. She was still as beautiful as ever, dressed in a white gown. She looked like a delicate white lotus trembling in the breeze. Gone from her face was that ethereal pride and composure of the past. In its place was a profound weariness and fear. The moment she saw me, she dropped to her knees with a thud before me. Su Yan, she cried, looking up at me. No, Dr. Eve, I'm begging you. Please let Yuxing go. I looked down at her from behind my desk. Let him go. I laughed. Miss Lin, you seem to be mistaken. I never had any intention of targeting him. The predicament of Tianqing Group wasn't my doing. It was simply left behind by the times. But, she wept, tears streaming down her face like rain on pear blossoms. He's about to break. The company is going bankrupt. He's falling apart. For the past 5 years, he hasn't had a single truly happy day. He's been searching for you, filled with regret all this time. You're still in his heart, is that so? I asked flatly. Yes, she said urgently. That New Year's Eve, he didn't ignore your call on purpose. It was me. I had a sudden heart attack, and he turned off his phone to take care of me. He didn't stop loving you. He's just too kind, too loyal. How familiar this sounds. What a perfect excuse. Looking at her, I suddenly felt a wave of weariness wash over me. I couldn't even be bothered to argue with her anymore. Lin Ruoxue. I stood up and walked over to her. Do you love him? She froze for a moment, then nodded vigorously without hesitation. Yes, I love him. I would give up everything for him. Good, I nodded. Then, right in front of her, I dialed Xin Yuxing's number. Xin Yuxing. I got straight to the point. Your cherished one is on her knees in my office right now, begging me not to ruin your life. Dead silence on the other end of the line. Now I'm giving you a choice, I continued. I have a new restructuring plan for Tianqing Group here. I can inject capital to save your company, even make it more glorious than before. From the other end of the line came the sound of Xin Yuxing's hurried breathing. But I have one condition. From now on, you will cut off all contact with Lin Ruoxue, erase her completely from your world. You and your life will belong entirely to me and my son. Can you do that? A long, deathly silence hung on the other end of the line. Kneeling before me, Lin Ruoxue stared at me with a look of utter disbelief and despair. She finally understood I wasn't competing with her for a man. I was telling her, in a way she could never comprehend, in this chess game called life. Lin Ruoxue, you're not even qualified to be my opponent. 13. The final acquisition. I bought everything he had with a single chip. The silence on the other end of the line lasted a full minute for Lin Ruoxue, kneeling on the ground. That single minute stretched on like an entire century. Finally, Xin Yuxing gave his answer in a voice I had never heard before, hoarse, utterly drained, and filled with despair. I accept. Hearing those 3 words, Lin Ruoxue's body jolted violently, and all color instantly drained from her face like a beautiful statue drained of its soul. She slumped to the floor. I calmly hung up the phone. Then, looking at her, I said coolly, do you understand now? Miss Lin, the so-called love between you and him is worthless in the face of the Tianqing Group, a business empire worth hundreds of billions. He and the empire he's so proud of are equally worthless in my eyes. I can make him choose me over you anytime I want, just as easily. I can make him give up everything for you, because the power has never been in your hands, it's always been with me. After saying that, I turned away without another glance and returned to my desk. My assistant will see you out. I have no idea how Lin Ruoxue, utterly devastated, eventually left my office. I don't care either, because she, along with the sentimental old world of trivial affections she represents, is already a closed chapter for me. Over the following month, I fulfilled my promise. Prometheus Corporation officially announced the launch of a strategic investment and restructuring plan for Tianqing Group. I did not use a massive infusion of capital to rescue his long-run real estate and luxury goods-centric old business, as Xin Yuxing had hoped. I restructured him in a far more direct and brutal manner. I stripped out all of Tianqing Group's non-performing, obsolete assets, bundled them up, and sold them off at a steep discount. I then turned it into a hollow shell, dedicated solely to providing offline experience centers and support services for my Eden virtual world. Tianqing Group exists in name only, but its soul and its future now completely belong to the Su family. The final signing ceremony for this landmark business restructuring was set to take place in the chairman's office of Tianqing Group. I arrived there punctually with my legal team, and Sun Yan Shen Yuxing sat behind his desk, once a symbol of supreme authority, wearing a suit that no longer fit. The spirited confidence that once graced his face was gone. He resembled a doomed monarch, about to sign his own death warrant on the scaffold. The look he gave me was indescribably complex. There was regret, resentment, pain, and even a faint, pathetic glimmer of hope. Su Yan, he rasped, his voice hoarse, can we really never go back? I didn't answer his question. I simply took a velvet box from my assistant, opened it, and placed it before him. Nestled quietly in the box was a crystalline biochip, shimmering with an ethereal blue light. This is the Oracle Type 2 internal beta chip, I explained calmly. It's at least 20 years ahead of any version on the market. It can form a deep, direct link with your cerebral cortex. It will increase your processing speed 50-fold and give you a memory rivaling a supercomputer. It enables you to learn in a single day what would have taken a decade to master. It can make you a genius who surpasses everyone all over again. Shen Yuxing's breathing grew rapid. He looked at the chip with the eyes of a traveler dying of thirst in the desert who has just spotted an oasis. He knew this was the future. This is true power. Now, I said to him slowly, I'm buying you, and every last moment of the life you have left, with this chip. Do you accept? He didn't hesitate for a second, as if clutching at his last lifeline. He reached out with a trembling hand and picked up the chip. Then, he picked up the pen and signed his name on the acquisition contract that would turn him and everything he had into my private property. I used a chip that cost me almost nothing, and I bought everything he had. Now that's what I call a complete takeover, and a cruelest form of revenge. 14. Who were you really watching those fireworks with? The contract is signed. Shen Yuxing and his crumbling empire were now, by law, officially my vassals. He clutched the Oracle 2 chip in his palm as if it were a priceless treasure, his sole hope for rebirth. I stood up, ready to leave. This protracted, 5-year-long reckoning should have ended right here, but I stopped in my tracks just as I reached the door. I didn't look back. I just asked him the question over my shoulder, the one I'd carried in my heart for 5 years, the one I'd already answered long ago. Shen Yuxing, that New Year's Eve 5 years ago, that spectacular fireworks display, touted as the event of a century, who were you really watching it with? My question was calm as if asking about the weather. Yet, upon hearing this question, Shen Yuxing's entire body jolted violently. He slowly raised his head to look at my resolute, utterly unlingering retreating figure. He remained silent for a very, very long time, so long that I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, in a voice filled with endless, hollow self-mockery, he slowly began to speak. I wasn't looking at anyone. That answer took me by surprise. I finally turned to look at him. I saw him give a bitter smile, a look more pain than any tears. Lin Ruoxue was indeed with me that night. The fireworks really were beautiful. But, Su Yan, do you know something? When that first firework burst in the night sky, my mind was completely filled with thoughts of you. I was wondering if you were scared, being home all alone. I was thinking you'd probably want to see these fireworks, too. I even instinctively pulled out my phone to take a picture for you. I wanted to tell you that next year, I'll definitely come watch them with you. But, his voice grew painfully dry, but I didn't do that, because I thought there would be plenty of time. I felt Lin Ruoxue needed me more. She waited for me for 10 years. I owed her. I thought you were my wife. You would understand. You would be considerate. You would always be there waiting for me at home. It's just a fireworks show. If we miss it this year, there's always next. It's just a child. Once it's born, there will always be nannies and maternity nurses to take care of it. I thought I could control everything. I thought I could handle both sides. I thought I had all the time in the world to make up for what I owed you. For the first time, I saw tears of remorse well up in his eyes as he looked at me. I was wrong. I was so terribly wrong. Su Yan said the fireworks were beautiful that night, but I saw nothing. All I saw was a selfish, arrogant, hopelessly foolish version of myself. He finished speaking. He laid bare before me the most hidden, most wretched part of his soul, a raw and bloody dissection. I listened in silence. It was as if a tiny pebble had been dropped into the long frozen lake of my heart. A barely perceptible ripple stirred. So that's how it is. It's not that he didn't love, he just loved too late. It was a love tainted by arrogance. With his own hands, he destroyed a perfect happiness through his pride and foolishness. This is perhaps a crueler punishment than simply not being loved. Business prodigy, with his mind honed to a razor's edge by technology, He carved out territories and built one colossal business empire after another for me. He became my most capable lieutenant, and also my most loyal captive. He spent his entire life atoning for the mistake he made on that night 5 years ago. Meanwhile, I continued on my path with Sun Yen. We launched the Oracle 3 chip, which can now achieve the preliminary short-term uploading and downloading of human consciousness. We initiated the ARC 2 project, commencing the construction of humanity's first interstellar port on the far side of the moon. Our ambitions have long since transcended this small, azure planet. One day, it was New Year's Eve once again. Sun Yen and I were standing beneath the massive dome of the lunar base. Through the reinforced glass, the distant Earth was clearly visible, beautiful as a sapphire across every continent and city on Earth. Breathtakingly brilliant fireworks bloomed simultaneously. From the perspective of the cosmos, it was like a grand, silent, parting tribute for us. Mommy, Sun Yen asked softly, her little face tilted up towards the distant points of light, do you still like watching fireworks? I gazed upon the planet where I had once lived, loved, hated, and finally said my goodbyes. A profound peace settled in my heart. I shook my head, smiled, and gently stroked his hair. No, Nian Nian, fireworks are beautiful precisely because they need the darkness